But back to Brett Veach, he gave us a lot of content to talk about. And one thing that I think really stuck out to at least me, and I think a lot of people in Chiefs Kingdom has stuck out to, is talking about the injured players that the Chiefs have. They've got Pat Mahomes rehabbing off of surgery. They've got Mitchell Schwartz rehabbing off of surgery. They got Eric Fisher rehabbing off of back surgery or off of Achilles surgery, off of surgery just in general. They've got a lot of guys that are going under the knife. And here's what Brett Veach had to say on Monday. We'll play some of that audio from there about both Pat, Mitch, and Eric Fisher.
I'm just looking at my medical notes here. So Pat had his toe surgery on 2/10. Talking to Rick late last week, it's a 3-month recovery. So we're hopeful, somewhere around that mandatory mini camp if we have. We certainly think by training camp he'll be good to go, and we'll be smart with him. Mitch just recently had his disc worked on, and we're hopeful for him to return to training camp, and the same thing with Fish. So we're hopeful both these guys will, complete the rehab and be available for training camp and to start the 2021 season. I would probably say Pat's ahead of them just because of the that type of injury and probably a quicker recovery, but hopefully have all three ready to go by training camp.
So Connor, after hearing that, and I know that the biggest thing that stuck out to me and what a lot of people was Eric Fisher should be ready by mid-August. That just seems not true.
We're not doctors.
No.
I'll say that up front. We don't even Rick Burkhalter. Is that how you say his last name?
Yeah, Rick Burkhalter.
The Chiefs head strength and conditioning guy. He said he was on track for mid-August as well. So I don't know how. I don't know. Maybe Eric Fisher was touched by an angel or something. I don't know what exactly happened there. But apparently he might be ready by August. And that actually tells me two things. One, they want to bring him back.
Right.
If they're talking about a return then, they're probably thinking he will be there for the season. And I don't know if they'll bring him back on his cap number right now. It's possible. They might maybe work something out, extend him out a year, maybe lower his cap hit a bit so they can work with it this offseason. And two, the Chiefs' needs do shift a little bit. Now, we were talking before the podcast. The Chiefs should not be afraid to draft a tackle at 31 still.
Yep.
When they have two aging tackles on serious injuries, and they don't know for sure they will be ready by then. They are hoping they will. That's what I at least gleaned from what he said. That's the plan. We know Mahomes will be, because he said 3 months. He will maybe even be back for like mini camps and stuff. Schwartz, I would say there's a better chance as well, because he said himself the recovery timeline is shorter. But all we know about Achilles injuries is that they're pretty long. And this would be a 7-month injury timeline recovery. So I think it's more of a hope. They kind of are hoping mid-August. That's what I gleaned from it.
Mm-hmm.
If he is back mid-August, that's great. The Chiefs still have two aging tackles off serious injuries on 1-year deals right now. It's not a recipe for success going into the future. And in a draft that has a lot of nice offensive tackles in it, they might just have to take one at 31 as well. Maybe play him at guard year one, like they were going to do with Lucas Yang. So I don't think really this changes the Chiefs' offensive priorities in the draft. Maybe in free agency it would, if they were going to make a play for a veteran to play this year. But in the draft, I still would like them to get tackle at 31.
I'm right there with you. I think that a lot of people who saw the news, who read the news on Twitter, who saw the quote from Brett Veach said, okay, now Eric Fisher is going to be back. Mitchell Schwartz is going to be back. Let's just forget about linebacker and let's move on to linebacker is what I meant to say, and forget about offensive tackle in round one. And I think that that's premature, right? When we talk about this offensive line unit, it's not a top 10 offensive line. Even when healthy, I don't think it's a top 10 offensive line, and you need it to be a top 10 offensive line with Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback. So drafting talent and getting talent in free agency is going to be a necessity, I think, for this team. Going forward, you can't rely on journeymen and old veterans, aging veterans. Like you mentioned, Connor, you're going to get, hopefully you get Fisher and Schwartz back by the beginning of the season, but those guys on the wrong side of 30, on the wrong side of serious injuries, on 1-year deals. So what do you do? There has to be a future move here somewhere. I think that you can't just rely on those two guys and say, okay, we're going to hang on to these two guys and then not do anything about it. I think there has to be something done about it in this offseason to address the problem that's going to be there moving forward. Yeah, Lucas Niang was drafted last season. He didn't play at all. He opted out. And honestly, we don't know at all what's going on with Lucas Niang. There's not a whole lot of information out there about him. And I wish that we knew a little bit more about what his situation was. But we're just going to have to see what it is, and maybe he moves into guard. LDT coming back, you can kind of hope that he is up in the shape that he needs to be. If he comes back in the shape he needs to be, he's at guard. So you look at, re-signing Ryder at that point. So you have Niang on, I just assume, where did LDT play? LDT play the right guard or the left
Right
guard?
guard. Yeah, he was right guard.
Okay. So LDT on the right guard, and then you have Lucas Niang probably left guard. Then you have Fisher and Schwartz at Ryder in the center. That's probably your best case scenario as of now, if you don't draft anybody, of what the offensive line could be.
I think it could be better. I think I'm doing a mock offseason one for SI, and also in a Discord, an NFL draft Discord, where we kind of just go through it as well, but with the other people kind of bidding against you, so you can kind of feel out how that would even play out.
Right.
And one thing I've realized is, if we want to build a wall from Mahomes, we kind of just have to get serious about it.
Right.
There's no like, oh, maybe Niang could play left guard. I think the Chiefs should make a bold move for somebody on the offensive line. And I think in our mock offseason, we're going to try that bold move being Corey Linsley. Trying to upgrade that center position, try and get an elite talent in there. You don't know if Schwartz and Fisher can be what they were before. So you kind of want to insulate yourself against some maybe loss of play at those positions, and kind of maybe add a spot. Center is a good one. Austin Ryder is a free agent, so you would have to pay up for him. It's not like he's like on a vet min deal right now. Because if he was, then I'd be like, yeah, okay, maybe the cost benefit analysis there is off. But he's a free agent too. You might have to pay up for him, because I think he might be the second best center in free agency.
Right.
So then he'll be bid up in free agency as well. So if you're going to be bid up on him, maybe just go out and get Corey Linsley. Might be a 13, 14 million a year deal, but the Chiefs can swing one of those deals, whether it's Linsley, whether it's a wide receiver. But I think I'm leaning more towards now building out the offensive line. Going through the mock off season for SF Chiefs, I told people it was one scenario the Chiefs could do. It was a kind of cover all bases scenario, which I'm fine with them doing if they want to do it. Sign Marvin Jones, Ryder, get some depth elsewhere also, and kind of just fill out the needs the team needs, so they can go into the draft with a blank slate, basically. But if they want to splash and they want to actually build an offensive line, they could go Linsley, they could go left tackle first round, they can go left guard third, fourth round, add depth to the offensive line, and go into next year with nice depth, elite talent, and a future at tackle.
Yep.
They can do that. And we'll see if they do that. I don't know. They said the priorities were offensive line. Brett Veach mentioned that. He said it was nice depth in the draft. And he said people were inferring that he wanted to invest in offensive line. So I think we'll wait and see on that. But I think Veach, he's thinking it right now. If I were to guess, he's like, I'm seeing Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson complaining about their teams right now. And we don't want that to be us in the future, because we don't draft offensive linemen for Patrick Mahomes. So I think he's seeing that. And I think that's going to be pushing him towards investing in offensive line this offseason.